Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our continuing series on the Sega Dreamcast, Hikaru and Naomi, and today we're taking a look at a Naomi game that's Dead or Alive 2. I'm showing you guys a little peek behind the hardware curtain because this is the startup screen for the Naomi version of Dead or Alive 2. I just love the colorful nature of it. This isn't what most Naomi games look like starting up, and I have added the music in underneath just so I'm not talking into the silence, but I just thought you might like to see this. The game even tells you to enjoy. But if you've never played Dead or Alive, if you've never played the franchise, it is just absolutely amazing. And Dead or Alive, the original, is really good, but Dead or Alive 2 is when the series really comes alive, and Millennium on the Naomi is the best version of the game to play, in my opinion. Before you get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps me out. And if you feel so inclined, we got a Patreon link down there as well if you want to support the channel. But this is exactly what you think it is. It is a 3D fighting game a la Virtua Fighter or Tekken. But I would definitely say I prefer Dead or Alive much more than I prefer Tekken. Tekken's always felt maybe just a little bit too fast to me compared to something like Dead or Alive or Virtua Fighter, but this is kind of in the middle. Virtua Fighter is a lot slower, more methodical game. Tekken's a little bit too fast for my tastes, but Dead or Alive is exactly the sweet spot for a 3D fighting game, and it doesn't hurt whatsoever that this game is absolutely beautiful in motion. It plays incredibly, all the button inputs are simple to learn and hard to master, and basically all the fighting mechanics are what you want in a 3D game. The Dead or Alive franchise has always been an excellent example of 3D fighting, and Dead or Alive 2 is definitely one of my favorites. Now, you don't have to go out and buy a Sega NAOMI to play this game. You can play it on Dreamcast. It was re-released on the Xbox. I definitely wouldn't go out and buy an arcade board and the cartridge to play this if you have other options. But when I wanted to do this series, I wanted to not just show Dreamcast games because there was so much derivative hardware from the Dreamcast, and Naomi was that. If you own a Naomi and you can pick this board up for cheap, it's definitely an awesome way to play the game, but it's definitely not essential. But again, just talking about the mechanics of it, it has a very similar feel to Virtua Fighter, and some of the characters almost feel like they're slightly copied from that franchise, but it just has a little bit more of an arcadey feel. I've always thought Virtua Fighter is an incredible franchise, and I love the methodical nature of the inputs and the strikes, but sometimes I want something that's just a little bit faster paced, and Dead or Alive 2 definitely brings that to us. Additionally, and you'll see it in some spots right here, the multi-tiered fighting arenas. I really enjoy that as a thing that occurs in games. And granted, this isn't the first game that did it. That was actually Samurai Shodown 64, a game that I've shown on the channel before. But I just kind of like how there's that little added extra mechanic of knocking your opponent off the side of the stage and being able to give them a little bit more damage in the process. It just kind of opens the game up to a little bit more strategy. And this game is definitely one where you're going to want to spend a lot of time with it because just playing and just winning is one thing, but really feeling like you're in connection with the game and playing it optimally is going to take a lot of time and energy to get good at. But that's kind of what I like about the 3D games versus 2D games, is that full ability to move foreground and into the background and around your opponent. It just has a certain feel to it that I enjoy more. And we're playing Genfu here. We're going to switch over to my primary character very quickly. I just wanted to play around with some people that I hadn't played around with before. And that's the fun thing about something like Dead or Alive, is that you can just decide to play a different character and see how that ends up feeling with you. If you feel like you've learned somebody too much and you want the game to be challenging again, just pick another character. Helena here is usually who I play as, and the game becomes easier for me because I have a lot of those inputs memorized. I even love just dumping off the character from that waterfall. It's just a lot of fun. Visually, the game looks stunning, it sounds great, it plays great. And what I want you to do is just watch the next stage from start to finish, just to get a sense of what it sounds and feels like without me talking, so I'll be right back.
Get ready.
Hey! Hi, 次の人。
行くわよ。
And you'll see there the first match I totally got my butt handed to me, and then in the second match I was able to instantaneously come back. And that is to say that these games can be quite difficult to play for capture. This is the type of game that should be on an arcade CRT or a PVM or a VGA monitor that can handle 31 kilohertz in. When you put this into an upscaler, some of the inputs can be off just slightly enough where it's going to be a little harder to play. But I love the story in this game as well, because not every fighting game has a ton of story, but this is that classic Tekken style. We're going to give you a lot of background into each and every character, and I really do appreciate that. I mean, fighting games do not need stories. It's not essential to enjoy them whatsoever, but I do like those little intercuts because each character has their own motivation, and it's just kind of give you a little bit more drive to play through each character to kind of see how all the story kind of meshes together with itself. And I mean, Dead or Alive still exists as a franchise. All of these games are great, whether you play the original 2, 3, 4, 5, whichever one you want to pick, you're going to have a ton of fun playing it. And I think the series really starts getting great at 2. The original, it's still a lot of fun, but it's just old enough visually that it doesn't feel as good as starting here. So if you want to start getting into the franchise, I mean, definitely take a look at 1, but really start with 2 and kind of move forward. But even before some of the matches, depending on your relationship with the person you're fighting, you do get these little story bits, and they're just a lot of fun to check out. And just being able to kick Ayane there straight through the balcony onto these stairs, it's just a really fun feeling game. This is a game that's really good at playing against the CPU as well. It's definitely better when you're playing against an actual human opponent, a friend in your living room, or if you're in an arcade, somebody else. But I would say that the CPU is actually programmed extremely well in this game. It doesn't feel too easy and it doesn't feel too cheap. It's challenging where it needs to be, but not so brutally so that you're going to end up having to put 10 virtual credits into one character to try to beat them. And you'll see the minute we get through that fight, we move right on to the next stage. And that is the boss. And it's actually kind of a really entertaining boss. I love the little intercut story here, and that's just a lot of what I like about Dead or Alive 2 is the presentation is really fun. It isn't bare bones. Now, when something like Street Fighter 5 came out, all you did was fight opponents. You could fight online, you could fight the CPU, but that was it, and we had to wait for a lot of those other story mechanics to get added in, where something like Dead or Alive 2 gives you a ton of stuff to do right in the beginning of the game. You get a lot of story and you get a lot of those elements, and I really applaud them for doing that. And obviously that's because, unlike now, you couldn't add things in with DLC. Sure, you could send a new ROM out to the arcades with more content, something like Millennium is, but you weren't able to make somebody download a 4GB patch just to give you a little of what the story is going to be. But like I said, this is an incredible game, and I absolutely love the entire Dead or Alive franchise, and I haven't played this game in probably a year. I had to dig everything out of my closet, but I was still able to beat the boss on my first go through, because a lot of times when I capture these games, they're some of my favorites, but I haven't been playing them all consistently. But this is a game where I remember being good at it, and I was still able to achieve at least a degree of that for the capture. But I just love the endings as well. Each character has one, and you just get a little bit more story. But if you own a Naomi, I definitely recommend you pick this cartridge up. If you don't own a Naomi and you have a Dreamcast, that's definitely a really good way to play it as well. You can get the Xbox version. They're all great experiences. I just love collecting arcade boards because it's just kind of what I do. So for me to have this, it makes perfect sense. But it can be a pain to deal with this at home. I mean, I have to go through an upscaler. Some of the audio likes to hit you a little bit just based on sync. So it's definitely something that if you want to dedicate your time to collecting arcade stuff, it can be more difficult, even if you just want to play it on your own. But I appreciate the fact that this game, even from being the arcade ROM, still has different contents in it. We can do a tag battle. You don't have to play through the story. And now suddenly this plays more like Tekken the Tag Tournament. I think it's better than Tekken Tag Tournament, but you still get that same mechanic in it. And I love the fact that for an arcade release, this has different modes, because usually for an arcade game, you play through arcade mode, you beat it, and that's all you get. So you're going to get a lot more longevity out of this as a Naomi game if that's how you decide to pick it up. But short of that, that is Dead or Alive 2. It is an absolutely outstanding 3D fighting game, and I definitely rank it much higher than Tekken. Now, if you disagree with me, and I'm sure a lot of people will, leave me a comment down below and tell me why I'm wrong. I certainly don't mind. I love chatting with you guys. But other than that, I will be back next Tuesday with another episode in our Dreamcast Hikaru and Naomi series, because I do want to show you guys some Hikaru stuff soon as well, because that is also another fun board. But short of that, I will have videos on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday as well. Like I said earlier, if you could do me a huge huge favor. Go down below, hit like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. But yeah, that's Dead or Alive 2. It's a perfect game. I love it. And if you've never played it, definitely however you do it, make sure you do. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.
頑張ったね
死神か
ご褒美よ